focus of today is around NetNada and how NetNada can help in a partnership situation. Our partnership program is really taking off at the moment. We've had some really, really good uptake, some really good shared customers across a number of different types of consultants and not just consultants, but companies who are working in the broader realm of sustainability. However, it is also really useful for people who, it can be a bit of a task to sell sustainability internally. If you've gone to any of Afonso's sessions on the mandatory reporting, the governance piece, getting everyone internally bought into what needs to be done, why this is important, why using a tool like NetNada is important, why calculating your carbon emissions is important, it's going to be really helpful for you in that sense. Great. Well, I think we can probably get started here. Again, please just shoot any messages, questions into the chat box. You can send them anonymously, and we'll just, very, very much an open-ended conversation today. We want to keep it, very much very engaging. Great. So objectives of today. Yes, as we touched on, it's educating partners and potential partners on how to effectively sell NetNada's software, but that could be, any carbon accounting software. If you are working with someone else, that's totally fine. We have to, obviously partner with us, but how do you position carbon accounting software in the broader role of sustainability software? Touching on what the structured approach to the customer journey would look like. What does it look like in a partnership situation? What are some of the sales strategies that we use to push NetNada's value proposition? And then we're going to cover some key resources, objections, and sales tactics.
Yeah, one thing there as well is, it's going from carbon accounting to a sustainability compliance software. So understands, the other data-heavy elements of the disclosures and all that comes with that, the project management of that. What NetNada is working on those things. So have that context. And if you have any questions about the reporting itself and the 4 pillars, just reach out at any point and ask any questions as well.
Yeah. So we have the upcoming risk apologies. That's a typo. Today's one is May 8th. This is happening next Thursday. So every Thursday, we generally have one of our webinars or education sessions. Session 4, Afonso, what are we expecting? Very, very popular. We're seeing, 50, 60, 70 people on each of these sessions. What's going to be happening on session 4?
So session 4 covers the pillar of risk in ASSB S2 disclosures. So we had sessions on the readiness assessment, the governance pillar, the strategy, and we had to risk. Risk is a critical one. Think about, physical risk, transition risk, opportunities as well. Super critical, especially like in not only the Australian context, what is the natural risk that we have, floods, fires, etc., but then overseas where your company might also be operating. The second thing that I want to point you to, if you are in Sydney, is on the 21st of May at the greenhouse at the Salesforce Tower. Would love to meet you in person. We're actually publishing a report after 25 interviews, data from 50 companies. Some of people in the call here contributed. And we're launching that report in an in-person session. Scan that QR code. Would love to kind of chat in person, answer all of your questions, and build that relationship of knowing you face to face, because this is a very long collaboration to support clients with this, and we want it to be more just software and people online and actually be able to meet in person. But yeah, those 2 things.
And you can scan that QR code now to go to the page to sign up. We'll send a link through as well. But yeah, we'd love to see you in person. It'd be great. And then yes, another touch again. May 15th is the correct day for the next compliance session. Then the final one is session 5, metrics and targets. We do have recordings for all of these that we can send through. Please sign up here. Again, we'll send through the slides and everything afterwards and information on how to sign up. But yeah, it's been a great series so far. Okay, before we get started, obviously big changes, or not changes. I might correct myself, over the weekend for the election. The legislative impact of Labor being re-elected obviously plays very much in the favour of the discussions that we're having today and the discussions that a lot of you are having. This screenshot on the left here is from Max from Edge Environmental. That's correct, Afonso?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's obviously, this is a great insight from not just us who's saying this, is everyone across across the different industries, and it'd be great to hear if you guys have even seen anything on your end in the past week. But some people were in that wait and see. Let's see who gets elected. Let's see where the focus is. But all of the progress that we've made over the previous 3 years around compliance, around commitments to net zero, around incentives, it's not just compliance, but we're also seeing things like the net zero grant in New South Wales come out. That is just going to keep progressing. In fact, we're going to see this really big uptick. There are public targets made for the 2030, and we're on the pointy end of the decade. It's 2025, and things are only going to really ramp up. So it's a really, really good period to be engaging or introducing the ability to cater to your clients in this space.
And we have things like, the Productivity Commission that has been discussed. We have the discussion on carbon pricing being kind of added back into the media. It is a big change, and also see the investments in renewables. So you see trickle down, not just only on the reporting, but adjacent industries that are supporting with these net zero goals at a state level as well, and what that looks like in terms of technologies and so forth.
Exactly. Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware who NetNada is or what we do today, we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to cover who we are, what we offer, why it's important we offer. You can get stuck in the weeds of features, but it's like, what is the benefit to the end user, to your clients in particular? And so any questions you have around what we do, how we do it, please ask them today, because we really want to take the approach that everyone's kind of needs to have that better understanding of NetNada before you can successfully have discussions, with your client base around the solutions that we provide. So what does, in that vein, what does NetNada actually offer? As Afonso touched on earlier, it started as a carbon accounting tool, and at its core, very much so doing carbon accounts is there, but we have grown to more of a sustainability compliance solution. So there is the ability to have your carbon measurement done, of course. GHG protocol aligned across all different countries. We're now doing carbon accounts for one entity that has offices in 4 or 5 different continents. So it's really, really at the top level of carbon measurement solutions. And on that as well, we're helping to provide recommendations to reduction strategies, developing sustainability reports, and helping people work through mandatory reporting requirements.
And a good segue as well. Look at reduction strategies, right? There's so much we can offer without understanding. But if you look about the advisory piece and you're using this software on top of your advisory, you see, and Alex will touch on that, your understanding of that organization, your relationship with the board, with the executives, what you can deliver, those workshops, you can build on the data generated by the system to then give those insights and do the internal buy-in of those strategies, which makes it really relevant for advisors.
Exactly right. We're obviously a software tool with a level of advisory wrapped on top, myself, Afonso, the rest of the team. But there are limitations to how far we can take our customers through that, what is a big journey, sustainability journey. And there's so much opportunity that like a carbon measurement unlocks for where we think that's where your advisory solutions come and wrap around what we provide. Bit of some heavy reading for later if you want to have a look at it, we'll send it over. But what is the benefit to the prospect? And this is essentially left or right in terms of things that move the dial in closed business from our perspective. 2-3 years ago, we really had to sell NetNada on this brand positioning piece. We'd go and we'd find people who were already making green or sustainable claims in the market. And we're like, look, let's really legitimize what you're saying. A lot of architects, a lot of people in the event space as well. But over time, it's really developed, and most importantly, towards this market compliance piece. We're not having conversations with people anymore as to the merits of sustainability. We're having conversations as to the capability for NetNada to solve that problem. And obviously, again, if you want to learn more, as I'm sure everyone has somewhat of an understanding of the market compliance piece in Australia, that is, if people or any of your client prospects are eligible Group 1, Group 2, Group 3 companies, there is a serious conversation to be had. The next one that really is a benefit to the prospect is the basis of certifications. Whether that's B Corp, CDP, Climate Active, people who have certifications and have an underlying need for carbon accounts, obviously they want to retain that certification year after year and the requirement to do their carbon accounts.
Yeah. There's just a question from Doug that we'll just answer right now, which is examples where finance is an important benefit as well. If you look at the reporting side, it's actually called finance. It's climate-related financial disclosures. So there's a connect link with finance because your end users of this output are normally in like the finance sector, the banking, investors, private equity, and so forth. So there's a link to your resilience to adapt to climate change. There's also a link to changes in sales, cash flows, etc. Linked to the resilience of your market and changes and transitions in your customers. So that's where like the quantitative analysis on the impact on your business will come. So the lens, once you go from carbon accounting to the whole strategy, already has a finance approach to that.
Yeah, definitely. There's also a bit of a market mover in the sense of opportunity. Sorry, 1 second. In that we do see some prospects come through with requirements being placed on them from investors or their access to capital. They want to be seeing that there are commitments in the ESG space to essentially de-risk them. And that's something that we see is like, what are another benefit to the prospect? The final one here is and requests. If you're speaking to someone or someone's within your network who is in a highly competitive industry, they're doing a lot of government tenders or a lot of kind of ERPs, they're going to need to be stacking up and having qualifications, certifications. And we're seeing when we had a webinar on procurement with the ex-head of New South Wales procurement about a year ago, he was forecasting that this is very much going to be coming on the same level as NDIS, Supply Nation, a 10, even 15% uptick in your grant capabilities and tenders and requests. So it is a really big one there that does drive the market. What certifications does NetNada offer and support? So again, just touching on that, carbon neutrality, obviously nowhere near as popular as it used to be, but certainly we offer our own carbon neutral certification. And for your smaller clients, it certainly is a really good solution, especially people who are able to reduce much of their emissions. We are a NABERS certified consultant, same with Climate Active, and we do a number of those certifications, and we can help your clients with that. I think one thing just to note here is that if you do become a NetNada partner, it is NetNada that holds that certification. Just to be careful, because it's very easy for a prospect to go onto the NABERS or Climate Active registered consultants list and look it up. And then finally, CDP. So we've done a number of CDPs, including Zipco's CDP for the past 2 years. That's the Carbon Disclosure Project, which is a much bigger international project. So some examples of NetNada's work to kind of give bring some light to what we've just discussed there. CBRE, we've done a number of NABERS and Climate Active Carbon Neutral certifications for them through a number of the team. Business New South Wales, obviously government, we've done their carbon accounts for the last 2 years and also helping them with some training across their portfolio. Then there's the ICC, great example of a lot of the work we've done in events. And events is something that we have done extensively over the past few years, doing everything from Adelaide Fringe Festival, largest fringe festival in the world. We've done Robbie Williams World Tour, which is a pretty exciting one, quite a few different music tours. And then finally, globally listed companies such as Zipco, working in a number of different countries with different international emission factors. So very, very well versed to cover all different types of businesses. And so,
One thing that I would like to add there as well, imagine if your consultancy and you are tackling these efforts or pitching your clients, you have the benefit by partnering with something like NetNada of once we pitch together, right, and we try and support a client, you can leverage our past expertise not only from the product front, but the work that we've done in the past. So if it's going to be your second client that you're going to do carbon accounts, or maybe your fifth, or you're trying to win some work on the disclosure side, understand that we are actively supporting a lot of companies, and you can leverage some of that portfolio because we'll be supporting you with implementation. So you can suddenly grow your positioning in the market as you approach these clients.
Exactly right. It's a great point, Afonso, and we have done that pretty consistently across a lot of our partners. So the chances are that we've worked with a company, same sort of industry, potentially same sort of size, and the same sort of solution. So that's the kind of conversation we're really keen to have. You can just shoot us a message, and we'll always have a case study to kind of add a bit of authority to the proposal. The partner hub. So part of the partner program as well is not to just kind of give you this presentation and say good luck and Godspeed. It's about giving you as much resources as possible to have really good communication with the potential clients, and then to also be able to provide resources and bring them along on the journey of understanding of what's required. So we have a public facing support documentation knowledge center, however you want to refer to it. It has different pricing guidelines. It has customer journey templates. Everything that's covered in this presentation's in there. We have a few sales resources, some demo videos, so plenty in there. Lots of resources to kind of help you with any conversations you're planning on having. And another thing, if you'd like to see anything else, this is a very collaborative program. We want to help you put together something that's really, really useful to the people you're having conversations with. One of our other partners came to us as an example. He said, I really like the deck that you did, this sort of presentation. They're not ready for a demo, this person. They're not quite ready for a call, but I want to give them like a one-pager that can explain to them what NetNada does and how it can help them. And we put together that one-pager, and now actually that one-pager sits on this partner hub. For those kind of conversations and insights, we're really keen to support you guys. So the partner customer journey, how does it work? Where do we come into the picture? Where does your clients come into the picture? So there is a sheet with a lot of a breakdown of the different stages of how we see them. Obviously, every client conversation can go quite differently. We've tried to boil it down to the simplest path so you can get a good understanding of where we come in and where you sit. The first thing I'd like to say is that our position in this whole partner program is very flexible. If you want us to be just the side technical partner and you use NetNada and you've used it yourself and we come in right at the end to just lend a bit of authority, great. If you want us there from the start to demo and take people through, we can also be there. Very much happy to defer to what you think is best. We usually see around 60 days close time. Average software deal size is 15,000, but that certainly is blown out by some of the larger the deals that come through. On the lower end, and if you do decide to join the partner program, we'll share with you a bit more of an extensive pricing guideline and pricing formula is around that 6K mark for smaller companies, SMEs. On the right-hand side here, what you can see is that the first stage where we won't be involved is around that identifying qualified prospects. So that's up to you, and we've got some points on this next slide as to identify if people are a good suit, if they are interested, and then after that, we can come in at any stage, whether that's to come and demo the platform, whether it's to have more conversations, and we usually see at least 2 demos before there's a close and contract. Anything to add there, Afonso?
I think there's just an element of this journey is, imagine you have two pathways. One is someone already in your network that you now do this discovery call to present a new angle, a new services, extra support, right? Or you can see it as you had never met this individual and trying to win their trust. If you've done past work with these clients, it's way easier. It's about, we've done this work on strategy, maybe circular economy, maybe you will help with modern slavery, and so forth. Now you're just repositioning and winning their trust on something else. When they're new, you have to unlock that trust, and might be something, giving something for free that's very valuable. That might be a small workshop, that might be a resource that NetNada has. Just navigate those things about whether you're pitching or you're trying to win trust as you navigate these things. This is very, confidential data. It's going to go into financial reports. It's going to be publicly available. Understand there is a very human aspect to this, even if you're using software, and navigate those things accordingly.
Yeah. We also had a question here. So you guys approach companies for carbon audit, or do they come to you through marketing and advertisements? Look, the way that we've, over the past 4 years, worked and approached and dealt with companies varies completely from us reaching out to them coming through marketing and advertisements. I think to explain as to how a lot of these conversations start, it goes back to that slide we had at the start. And what are their pain points? If these are companies who are, susceptible to compliance laws now in Australia, it's a conversation that's very easy to have. If there are people who are not probably just problem aware, but aren't ready to make a decision, potentially you need to approach it in a different way.
One thing to that is, if you are running a consultancy with 20 people and so forth, setting up advertisements, etc., it's complicated. And the reality is the success comes from those closed networks to begin with. So think about map, and we're going to help you map who are the current clients that you've worked in the past or want to work in the future that know of you, and we start with that. And secondly, if you want to approach someone new, don't think about like advertisement and marketing. Think about personal connection and solving a problem for them. And that might be, hey, I know you're the CFO of this company, has 150 employees, is going to have to disclose in the next 2 years. I'm just going to share with you like a roadmap that walks through the disclosure process across the 4 pillars. I'm going to help you do a readiness assessment so you can then internally map resources. Or we're going to do a comparison between 2 different industries on your carbon inventory results. Things like that, more than running advertisement or whatever that looks like for you. Think about building those relationships, because there will be connections of yours inside companies that have to report. And this reporting touches a lot of roles, from procurement to finance to strategy to human resources, even for like skill gaps. So you'll probably know someone who's one step away from being involved in gathering this information.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, trying to look more to those kind of middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, people who you already have trust with, rather than going out into the market and trying to have that first ever touch point conversation, because there is a level of trust that needs to be built upon. And people they want to deal with people they know. We found that very much, especially with the compliance aspect, because there is a lot of uncertainty and it's best to kind of look across your existing network and who you think could benefit from what we're covering here today. And if you know what they can benefit, the next stage is around discovery. So are they a qualified prospect? Now, we kind of broken it into 4 different pillars that you can look at. There's a lot of key resources here that will be available once we send this over. Qualification checklist, the whole customer journey sheet, bit of a simple breakdown of mandatory reporting guidelines, just to familiarize you again with who fits into what group 1, 2, and 3. Some information pack, and then also that reporting readiness assessment that Afonso touched on. So lots and lots of resources help you with this discovery stage. But essentially, it's like, do they have an interest? And that goes back to one of those first slides. Do they have a budget, with the idea that, you're probably looking at a bit of a $5,000, $6,000 minimum investment over the year? Are you speaking to the decision maker? And is there any urgency there? Pretty simple, basic sales stuff, but it's just good to keep in mind before we kind of progress and get people onto that, first demo call. Just as a reminder again, this is imprinted on my brain. I feel like I see this every time I wake up, but this is such a good framing aspect of like putting everything into, are they a group 3 who's going to become a group 2? are they Group 1? You would be surprised with how many Group 1 companies do not have a solution yet. We internally kind of wrote it off that Group 1 were ready about 3 months ago, and we're still having a lot of conversations with Group 1 companies. Group 2 as well needs to kind of be getting ready. And after the first reporting phase that starts to come out, we anticipate a big push on the Group 2 and Group 3 companies. Kind of, they can see what they need to do. The uncertainty's kind of gone away. They know that this is still going to happen, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Again, the demo stage, just like any software demo, we usually get people on, have a conversation. We can happy for you to run the demo, but usually the first few times it is us kind of taking people through the platform, having a bit of a conversation. There is a link to a platform demo in here. We're not going to go over one today, but you can click through and have a view of me taking you through with the support hub, academy education, and some of the other things. I will say as well, as Afonso touched on, in terms of all of the resources that you can see on the NetNada website that are listed in this document, you don't need to ask permission for us to be sharing those with anyone. We would love for you to be sharing and using those in the discovery stage and the initial conversation stage. So the close and kind of contract aspect, just interesting to say that. So am I getting much background noise there? Or is it all right? Okay, fine. Sorry, it's a bit of renovations happening nearby. That the close and contract, generally how we see it, is between you and the prospect. So this is where there is a lot of opportunity for you to layer on top different services that you already offer or may decide to offer, along with the carbon accounting tool. And then we have a relationship with you. This invoice between you happens between us, you and NetNada, whereas the exchange of terms between you and the prospect is separate.
Just on that note, right? There's different ways to approach that. If you're in a phase where you need extra support, maybe on those sales calls, etc., we can also like pitch together, right? And then we can do like a share referral in there. This is, understanding, once you join our partner program, we sign some terms. You have my time, access time to fully support you. You might become more independent in the way that you go to market and you're navigating your own terms. And then once you onboard a client, you have that invoicing from NetNada. But there's many ways to skin this cat. We just want to give you as much support as we can.
Exactly right. And again, this goes back to what we said multiple times. We are very flexible within this partnership program. So please, if this doesn't fit how you want to be doing, if you just want to be referring, or again, all those conversations are open and ready to be had. This is just to kind of give us a bit of a blueprint to work off to begin with, but it's personalized and tailored to each partner.
Yeah. Dirk had a question about do you forward leads to partners for additional support and consulting, and how do we pick partners? There is some clients that require extra help where our team doesn't have capacity. Let's say we have a certain size of team already helping companies like end-to-end disclosures, and that might involve a lot of support. Some clients might come our way where they need specific understanding on like logistics or fashion supply chains and so forth. That's when we look at our partners, when we try to bring in along for that extra work. How does that picking a partner works? It's based on relationships, on understanding of your services. So the more you can share with us in terms of what you offer, what's your strengths, and how you want to position, the easier it becomes to do that. There's no preferred terms to do so. It's on the basis of us understanding exactly what the partner does, and that it's going to strengthen that relationship.
Yeah. So once the client comes on board and is signed on, the onboarding delivery of a carbon account, that's where we are very heavily involved. We have we're very proud of the way that we support our clients, and I'm not just saying that because I'm head of customer success, but it is something that we really put a big focus on. And so don't be afraid that it's a sale and then your customers, your clients are just left to go through the platform by themselves. That's not the case. Access to our team, we're working with you and the shared client to make sure that they're onboarded correctly, to make sure that they have their carbon account delivered correctly. After that, depending on what the terms are of the agreement, if we're just doing the carbon account, the ongoing success, that's where I think, or we believe that's where the opportunity for you to layer on top of your advisory services really comes into place. There may be some that where it's just the carbon account done, but for us and what we've seen previously with other partners, our service of NetNada is just a small piece of the broader suite of work that you're doing for them. So ongoing success for them may look like they have their carbon account done because they want to form a broader ESG strategy, or they're wanting to do, lots of different other aspects that fall within, the massive bucket of ESG that isn't just the metrics carbon accounting side. Potential timeline for this is for smaller companies, and then we have one for larger companies. Every company is quite different, but I guess the most important thing here is that we do aim to have that scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions done within the first month. For more complicated ones, it'd be through the first 2 months. Where there is a bit of a lag is when companies don't have all their data ready internally. But apart from that, in terms of when we get the information, it's quite quick. Again, then you can look at implementing reduction strategies, partner network, exploring offsets or options if they're interested in carbon neutrality. There's a lot of different services that can kind of be intertwined throughout the year. But when we're talking about a larger company, this could actually maybe even be above 40 employees based on the size. Employees can be a bit of a misleading metric, but you need to be bringing in a sustainability working group. There is that governance piece. There is looking at the compliance alignment. You might be doing a scenario analysis, and this is where certainly along this timeline, there's a lot more scope for our partner network to be providing their services.
And think about here as well, when you go to these large organizations that want things done right, and it really depends on how educated or ambitious they are. Think about your first step to supporting them. It might not just be doing the carbon accounts. It might be, we're going to help you do a materiality assessment or select the boundaries for that measurement. And you win that conversation like that. Understand really deeply what's the pain point of this organization and how you can provide value in terms of, do they have to do this because their closest competitor has done it, right? Or do they have to do it because you see a trend? Or because you know that the cost involved of if they don't do it now, what does it look like? So understand that aspect and then navigate the carbon accounts. But I assure you that the trust is won even before you begin doing the measurements, because you can see the measurement is going to be the easiest part. It's winning the trust, making sure they have the right accesses, the right people in the room. That's going to be the difficult part.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that ties in really nicely to some of the sales strategy, and we've kind of broken it down into key sales messaging and common objectives. And not to skip ahead, but one of the opportunities that we really see in this partnership is that people are reticent to just take on another software. They want to work with someone. They want to work with someone they trust. They know that this solution requires a software piece. And your ability to sit in the middle there and say, don't worry, I've got a trusted partner, but you're going to be working with me. There's so much opportunity there, so we'll touch on in a second. But these are some of the 5 key sales messaging that we think is really good to wrap your head around. And then they link in quite nicely to some of the common objections on the next page. So the first one is GHG protocol aligned. And this is very much goes on to the accuracy, the legitimacy, the auditability of what we do here at NetNada. Accuracy and efficiency is obviously a really big one now we get into this compliance space. This used to actually be a bit more accuracy and speed about 2 years ago, because we were very much in the market. It was, people didn't really want to do it. They just wanted it done quickly. They didn't want to have to do much work. But that's really changed to, yes, we want this to be efficient, but it's important for us to get it right, and it's important for us to make sure that it is accurate, and we don't want to sacrifice accuracy in the name of speed. So speed, yes, it's much quicker than if you were to do it manually, and we've seen a lot of companies kind of have these kind of dinosaur-style internal processes that it's still quite reliant on, but the ability to improve internal processes and solve that problem is a massive part of the sales messaging. Then there's the compliance and disclosure solution. We've touched on it, but very just important to kind of lean into that. And finally, the support, the upskilling, the education and training. People are really interested. Teams are really interested in not just box ticking it now. In that sense, like not just to get their analysis and walk away from it. They want to bring people along internally, and we see it a lot where you have these sustainability working groups or green teams, and they're in there and they're crying out for a bit more guidance. They're crying out for the opportunity to upskill. And so we can offer that. You can offer that through our academy resources, through all of our blogs, through our webinars like this. It's a great opportunity for you to say, come along, this is one of my partners. And we can also look at bespoke solutions there.
It brings me to the point of this session, this report that we are releasing on the 21st, and we'll post a link again for you to sign up. But these interviews, what they surface is this key sales messaging normally goes around the pain points that they're exploring, and by looking at several organizations, several interviews, we're able to pinpoint what those pain points are. So by you having that knowledge, you can really speak to these personas and say, I know that most likely they're struggling with this. And that might be, board communication as an example, because the sustainability manager knows that this is important, but speaking with the board about budget or about the governance, it's what's challenging. So I really encourage you to understand a bit more about that report, because we'll make you and your team more equipped with the tools to communicate things that or they already know and they're experiencing, or they should be on the lookout for within the organization about things ahead of them and pain points.
And again, on the flip side, the common objections. This is what we hear all the time. This is what you're probably going to hear. And one of the first ones is we already do this internally. This is changing quite rapidly, because people do realize that they need to have a software solution. It's inefficient for them to be doing it. So we enhance and work with existing sustainability efforts, not trying to replace anyone. We're trying to make the jobs of internal people easier. A lot of these sustainability professionals, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware, who are working internally, especially in larger corporations, have spent and wasted a lot of time just on data collection, data cleaning, data upload, data analysis, whereas we want them to be working on so many other opportunities around compliance, reduction strategies, great initiatives. So you're really helping them do things that actually move the dial rather than just working on data. Feel like we aren't ready. Well, the good news is that if they're from this objection is that if they're in that group 1, 2, or 3, they need to get ready. People say that they feel like they're not ready, but this is when we really lean on the fact that there's so much support. When it's a partner-based discussion, it's not only the support from the NetNada team, it's also the support from you. And I feel like we aren't ready is matched with don't have the internal resources. That's not, we find that that's not so much about budget. It's more around, we're worried that this is just going to suck up all of our time. And in terms of the preparation, the data collection, we can do it so much quicker. We can do it as quickly as possible. Again, not relying on speed, but this is as efficient solution as possible to solve the problems around compliance, analysis, carbon measurement.
And understand those pain points, right? We don't have internal resources. Ask the question, why or how? And they might then draw comparisons to, we've once got a B Corp certification and it took us 2 years. Or once we were trying to do this exercise about looking at energy consumption and I was manually going to the spreadsheets and my finance team wouldn't help me. So try to uncover those pinpoints and then counteract that with how you're going to fix that solution for them by having NetNada with an AI OCR that reads directly from invoices, having templates prepared, having the support from us to clean the data, like all these things that you can actually then, once you know exactly the problem is, talk to that and offer the solution or the trust that it will work.
Concerned about data security and risk. Well, Fonzo has been working very hard on this. I'll let him handle a bit of information on that one.
Yeah, just on the security and risk is this is data that sometimes is very tied with financial information. What we believe from the software side, there is more controls, more accesses by doing this through a software and maintaining the information in there versus your client be sending spreadsheets or whatever it might be, or templates that end up back and forth with different versions, different ways to edit, etc. Becomes more challenging. And then when it comes to the auditing part, if you don't offer a centralized system that has all the logs, all the accesses, all the modifications, it then involves more complications in terms of understanding how accurate that data is. So the software side, even though people think software, oh, security, data breaches, you actually counteract that by saying the opposite is actually true, because unlock spreadsheets with your financial data spreading around in the hands of consultants and junior consultants, it becomes really, really challenging.
Yeah. And then this goes to what I think is the best objection, because for us, it can be sometimes difficult to answer. I want a tool that does all my ESG. Now, NetNada does have the capacity to be an end-to-end ESG solution. We can do transparency assessments, supply chain engagement, track where they are at with their own social governance, environmental. But this is something we hear all the time. And this is, I think, the gold is, in the sense that you can supply all of the separate advisory solutions that allows them to just have one partner for their ESG, and then through that, you have a tool and a partner that's us. It can do their carbon measurement, but you can also help them with all the other planning and services that they need to be a leader in this space. So very, very exciting, that last one, I think.
On the last question as well is, understand what is all the ESG needs. When I say all of ESG, maybe the S is just modern slavery, right? They're not looking at diversity or something else. So understand and break down what that full ESG is, or other framework they're trying to align with, and then put back the question to that. Eva asked if we partner and work with companies outside Australia. Yes, Alex at the beginning was uncovering just a client that we work with across 5 continents, as an example, where we're doing their disclosures at a global level. Same thing with clients in Australia who have overseas operations. So it's part of our day-to-day working across countries and continents. In terms of partners, we have in the UK partners that work in those spaces themselves. So not only our end clients, but partners of NetNada implementing in Europe as well.
That's the end of our session. We've kind of touched on nice 45 minutes. I'd love to have any other questions, just as a follow-up as what to expect next. While you put some questions together, we'll send through a pack in the email that will have all the resources we covered today and some of the links. There'll also then be a link to book a meeting with myself, quick 15-minute check-in, and that's if you are interested in becoming a partner. Now, what does becoming a partner mean? There is no financial commitment to become a partner. This is a simple service agreement that's just essentially aligns what we're speaking about, what the expectations are going forward, and I'll cover that in our 15-minute check-in. But we really want to work with people who are really interested and enthusiastic and encouraged about providing good services to their clients. So we'd love to see you book in, have a good conversation about what that looks like, and then we can discuss, as mentioned, that personalized next step.
Yeah, I'd recommend that, if you can chat with Alex and understand a bit more about that. In terms of the financial agreements, we do it by, one by one in terms of what client you're pitching. Once we have that structure in, we can just define a standard like referral commission, from your 10% to 4%, depending on how we're involved in that level of that partnership. We try to offer as consistent pricing and not by referral as we can, to help you project the costs involved and how many licenses we're going to use and so forth. In terms of the referral back to you for services that we don't do, we normally actually don't get commission on that. We just identify the partner and you win the work, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there's no interest in there from us. It's about just getting the best person for the work. We don't take commission on that.
Alfonso, this is a good question here that's come through, and great one for you as leading our compliance focus. You said earlier that NetNada is only part of the whole compliance reporting solution, but also has the capacity to be an end-to-end solution. Can you clarify this?
Yeah. So what we at the moment are doing is, before there was just carbon accounting. Now carbon accounting involves documentations, the auditing, and the processes. So that's been unlocked to be able to export those audit packs. When it comes to the other pillars, things like governance, strategy, risk, and so forth, the first step that we are helping our consultants do is providing the project management for the 200 paragraphs of this legislation. So we've broken all of that for our clients. We've now mapped the framework to the controls and the tests. So once you start that work, you know exactly what you need to do, and you have templates available to provide the evidence to do that work. So if you are going to run a workshop for materiality, you now know exactly to which paragraphs it links to, and you can start going to this checklist of seeing your disclosure progress taking place. And we're adding things like risk management, things like physical hazards, things like comparisons for qualitative data on finance modeling, all of these requirements, and I'm happy to connect and share more information that larger companies will have to do and have that end-to-end assurable disclosure on this information.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of it's only one part, that metrics part, yes, from right now, how the software is positioned in terms of the analysis, but NetNada does have clients who we have committed to be doing end-to-end all pillars of their mandatory reporting requirements. Now, at the moment, yes, some of that does require more of a consultant advisory touch, but we're also working to productize a lot of these different elements into the system. So it may be a situation of, and we have had partners who have just referred us clients saying, we don't want to really be involved in this whole mandatory reporting space, but we'd like to take the clip on the way through, which is totally fine. And we're managing the whole relationship. And then we have a scenario with clients, with partners where they are taking on a few of the pillars. They're doing the governance, they're doing the strategy, and NetNada is just doing the metrics. So I hope that kind of answers how we do focus, and we do previously come from that one real strength in the metrics and the data side of the mandatory reporting, but we have now grown to be doing end-to-end if required.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions?
About the agreement, is it exclusive or possible to sell alongside other tools? It is not exclusive. We have partners who use a number of tools, and we have no issue with that. So there's no exclusivity. There's nothing legally binding about the agreement. Again, if you're interested and you want to learn more, it's more just to legitimize a bit what we're doing together, and to make to show that you are interested in joining the partner program. So if you want to learn more about that, please book in a time.
And the element as well to that is we can only mention our partnership if we have that agreement, because we need to be able to collaborate. So if we have clients that require expertise, we need that agreement in place before we think about referrals or mention you on calls, on marketing collaterals, and so forth. That allows us to communicate the partnership.
Yep. And then from Joel here as well, are there any standard financial agreements with the partner program? Any sales commissions you pay to partners who sell NetNada? Yes, of course. It's a 10 to 30% commission structure, which I can happily take you through on the call if you do book in with me. And again, it just varies on the amount of support that NetNada will be required to give the client. If it's essentially a shared client, obviously the commission structure is much higher. If it's just a referral and NetNada is doing all of the work and it's just been an introduction, the commission goes in that kind of lower end of the scale. But again, we cover all that once we welcome you onto the partner program. So we'd love to have that conversation separately.
Awesome. Anything else, team?
No, well, thank you so much for everyone for joining. Really appreciate your time and questions. It's been great.